Over the previous 10 years, courts in Minnesota have seen a steady decline in funding. Third District Court Judge and Chief Judge for the 3rd Judicial District, Jeffrey D. Thompson, says that while the funding shortfalls have not been crippling, he says it has impacted the courts in several ways through a shortage of court clerks, public defenders, and judges. However, Judge Thompson said the courts have managed to continue to provide good judicial services. He said the courts must learn to speak louder when the next funding cycle comes around.
As a tradition, I guess, the courts haven't asked for what they need. And that's a tradition I'd like to see changed. I'd like to see us ask for what we really need and for full funding. I think if we had full funding, we'd be able to do much more for addressing our juvenile issues, our mental health issues, and process the criminal and family court cases more, well, just promptly.
What frustrates people like Winona County Attorney Karen Sonneman and Judge Thompson is that the courts are not funded as the third branch of the government should be.
We get budgeted like a government agency, and one of our main functions is to try to convince the legislature that we're more than a government agency. We are the third branch of government. And actually the judicial branch gets slightly over 1% of the state's budget for the third branch of government. And we have shown over and over again that we are very good stewards of the money that the legislature gives us. I think that if we had more, we could do more, but we're trying to do the best we can with what we have.
As the elected chief judge of the 3rd District, Judge Thompson oversees the southeasternmost 11 counties in Minnesota. He says the district is already short nearly 3 judges. The state is short over 30 judges. Judge Thompson hopes things will change with the next budget cycle.
We, as a district, need 25.7 judges. We have 23. For the last 6 years, we have been the most underjudged district in the state. That has caused us a number of problems. It's not so much that the right to a speedy trial isn't being met. It's that in order to do certain things, you have to, it's like a balloon. If you're going to push on one side, the balloon's going to expand on the other side. So we're having problems balancing the pressures on the balloon. And you can't just stuff more air into this balloon or it's going to pop, and we're trying very hard to keep it from popping. I have been chief judge now since April Fool's Day. And I've been working on a solution. I think we are going to be able to develop a family court referee position in Olmsted County. That will help take off some of that pressure, but that's not the only solution. I'm hoping that next legislative session, next budget session in 2015, that we'll be able to go to the legislature and say, we need more judges.
The courts are looking to use technology with the decrease in personnel. Programs like eCourt are being considered, and interactive television is already being used in some court proceedings to improve efficiency.
We're trying to use interactive television in an intelligent way so people don't have to travel as much. And I think it's kind of like court Skype. You've got a big screen where people can appear on TV. Let's say we have an expert witness from St. Peter State Hospital testifying in a commitment case. That saves them the driving time. Or we have, because of the lack of judges, we have to have a hearing from Houston County, say, here in Winona, and we can do that interactively. So we're expanding that. We've got some rules to deal with that. But the thing I think that people need to understand is we are, at the trial court level, the courts of credibility. If we're taking testimony from somebody, or if we're trying to decide if a person's telling us the truth or not telling us the truth, or if there's more information to be got, whenever you're interviewing somebody or interrogating somebody or questioning somebody, you just have to understand that 75% of all the information we get from people is nonverbal. 15% of information we get from people is just based on the tone and tenor and sound of the voice. Only 10% of what we get from people is based on what they actually tell us. And so it's important to have that person in the courtroom, in front of a jury, in front of a judge, in front of the parties, so that we can actually have these hearings be meaningful. So if we're talking about procedural hearings, then the interactive stuff, that's fine. But if we're talking about actually a hearing on the merits, on the issues, those have to be in person. And not being able to do that in a prompt, effective fashion, I think, does hurt the administration of justice.
Judge Thompson believes the legislature is beginning to hear the plight of the judiciary. He said the courts seem to be holding their own at this moment.